Ever wondered if your dog could whisper? Well, believe it or not, it's possible. Picture this, your furry friend, not just barking, but communicating with you in soft, subtle tones. It's not a dream, my friends. It's a reality that we're going to dive into today. We're exploring the fascinating world of dog whispering, or rather, teaching our dogs to whisper. This is a unique trick that not only amuses and impresses, but also serves a practical purpose in managing the volume of your dog's barks. This video is a step-by-step guide on how to make your dog a master of this trick. With patience, persistence, and a lot of love, you can train your canine companion to express themselves in a whole new way. Remember, every dog, irrespective of breed or age, can learn new tricks. So, are you ready to start this unique trick training? Let's dive in. Before we start, you may be wondering, why should I teach my dog to whisper? A fair question indeed. Teaching your dog to whisper or bark softly isn't just a whimsical skill to flaunt at parties. It's much more than that. Firstly, it's a fun and engaging way to mentally stimulate your dog. Just like us, our furry friends thrive on learning new things. Secondly, it's an excellent exercise in obedience. By teaching your dog to whisper, you're effectively reinforcing their ability to follow commands and understand different cues. And there's more. If you've got a canine who loves to express themselves vocally, often a little too loudly, teaching them to whisper can be a practical way to control their volume. Imagine being able to lower the decibel level during those late-night bark sessions. Now that we know why it's beneficial, it's time to learn how. Our first step in this training process is capturing the bark. Now, this might sound a little odd, right? After all, we spend so much time trying to get our dogs to stop barking, and here we are, encouraging it. But trust me, there's a method to the madness. Every dog is unique, and they all have different triggers that get them barking. For some, it could be the sight of a favorite toy. For others, it might be a knock on the door or the sound of a car passing by. The key is to identify what makes your dog bark, as that's going to be our starting point. Let's say your dog's trigger is a squeaky toy. You're going to want to squeak that toy, and the moment your dog barks, reward them with a treat or a pet. It's crucial to immediately reward the behavior so that your dog makes the connection between barking and the reward. Now, here's where patience comes into play. You'll need to repeat this process over and over again until your dog starts to get the hang of it. Remember, consistency is king when it comes to training. It might take a few days or even a week, but eventually your dog will start to understand that barking when you squeak the toy earns them a reward. But what if your dog is a little shy and doesn't bark easily? Well, don't fret. In this case, you might need to be a bit more creative. Try knocking on the door or ringing the doorbell. If that doesn't work, you may even want to consider recording the sound of another dog barking to get your dog's attention. The critical thing to remember is that every dog is different. What works for one might not work for another. It's all about trial and error, patience, and a lot of treats. Once your dog is barking on command, we can move on to the next step. And that's where things really start to get fun, but more on that later. For now, keep working on capturing that bark. Happy training. After your dog has mastered barking on command, it's time to lower the volume. Now, this is where the magic happens, where you transform your dog's bark from a booming command to a soft whisper. But remember, this isn't something that will happen overnight. It takes time, patience, and a lot of treats. So how do we go about this? Well, we start by gradually reducing the volume of our command. Instead of saying bark in a normal tone, we start whispering it. You might feel a bit silly at first, whispering to your dog, but trust me, they'll catch on. Just like they learn to bark on command, they'll start to understand that a quieter command means a quieter bark. Now, when your dog responds to your whispered command with a softer bark, it's time for a reward. This is crucial. Dogs learn best when they associate a behavior with a positive outcome. So make sure you have plenty of treats on hand and give them one every time they get it right. Remember, we're not looking for silence, just a softer bark. However, this process might not be smooth sailing all the way. There might be days when your dog just doesn't seem to get it when they bark just as loud no matter how softly you give the command. Don't worry, this is normal. Just like us, dogs have good days and bad days. On these challenging days, it's important not to get frustrated. Instead, take a break and try again later. Also, keep in mind that some breeds are naturally louder barkers than others. If you have a breed known for their booming barks, it might take a little extra time and patience to get them to whisper. But don't give up. Every dog, regardless of their breed, can learn this trick with enough time and patience. So keep going, keep whispering, and keep rewarding those softer barks. Before you know it, your dog won't just be barking on command, they'll be whispering on command. And isn't that a trick worth showing off? With patience and consistency, your dog will start to understand that a softer bark gets a reward. Now that your dog is barking softly, it's time to add a cue. Think of this step as giving your dog a secret password, a special signal that lets them know it's time to whisper. This cue could be a word, a phrase, or even a hand signal. It's important to choose a cue that's distinctive and not something you use in your everyday interactions with your pet. So how do we go about this? Let's start with a verbal cue. You might choose a word like whisper or softly. Begin by saying the chosen cue word just as your dog is about to bark softly. It's all about timing. If you say it too early or too late, your dog may not make the connection. Now let's consider a non-verbal cue like a hand signal. You might decide to hold your index finger to your lips in a shushing gesture. Just like with the verbal cue, it's essential to make this signal just as your dog is about to whisper. Once you've decided on your cue, be it verbal or non-verbal, it's time to reinforce it. This is where the power of positive reinforcement shines. As soon as your dog whispers in response to your cue, reward them. This could be with a treat, a toy, or simply a good old belly rub. Remember, patience is key. Your dog might not get it right away, and that's okay. Learning a new trick is a process, and every dog learns at their own pace. The important thing is to stay consistent with your cue and reward system. If you're having trouble, try varying your rewards. Maybe your pup is more motivated by a game of fetch than a doggy treat, or perhaps they just need a little extra praise. Don't be afraid to mix things up and see what works best for your furry friend. With the cue in place, your dog is well on its way to mastering the whisper. This is a significant milestone in your dog whispering journey, and you should be proud. Remember, it's not just about the end result, it's about the bonding and the fun you and your pet have along the way. Congratulations! You're now equipped with the knowledge to teach your dog to whisper. So, let's do a quick recap of the steps. Firstly, we focused on capturing the bark. It's all about finding a trigger that makes your dog bark and rewarding them for it. This can be anything from a doorbell sound to a favorite toy. The goal here is to create a positive association between barking and receiving a reward. Next, we moved on to lowering the volume. This is where you gradually reduce the amount of reward your dog gets for loud barking, while at the same time increasing the reward for quieter barks. With time and practice, your dog will start to understand that quieter barks earn them bigger rewards. Lastly, we added a cue. This can be a word, a hand signal, or even a specific look. The key here is to consistently use the same cue every time you want your dog to whisper. Now let's talk about some common challenges you might face during the training. One common issue is that your dog might get too excited and start barking loudly instead of whispering. If this happens, don't worry. Take a break, let your dog calm down, and then try again. Another issue could be that your dog is not interested in the reward. In this case, try to find something that your dog really loves. It could be a special treat, a favorite toy, or even some extra cuddle time. Remember, every dog is unique and they all learn at their own pace. So don't get discouraged if your dog doesn't pick up the trick right away. Be patient, be consistent, and most importantly, make sure your dog is having fun during the training. And that's it. You're all set to embark on this exciting journey of teaching your dog to whisper. We hope you found this tutorial helpful and can't wait to hear about your experiences. Remember, the key to successful training is patience, consistency, and lots of rewards. Happy training!